Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scott C Business, and today we're here with Ricardo Schiller, who is the lead architect of the BlockBase, and Diogo Bulha, who is the lead developer. Sorry if I butchered those names, but yeah. So we're here with them today, and we're going to be talking about BlockBase and what it's all about. If you'd like to just both start off by telling us a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, Scott. So my name is, in fact, Ricardo Schiller. Schiller with a C between S and an H, so it's not like Schiller from Shilling Coins. It's a German name. And I've been in the IT area for more than a decade now, and been mostly in AGAP2 IT. That's the mother company of BlockBase. I'm head of innovation at AGAP2. And since about 3-4 years ago, we started researching blockchain. So I heard about Bitcoin in 2015, 16, and Ethereum was also getting a lot of momentum at that time in smart contracts. And it was also at that time that we started thinking about the concept of BlockBase. So now we could dive into the BlockBase project, but I perhaps would be better for Diogo to introduce himself to you.
Okay, so I'm Diogo Bulha. I joined AGAP2 like almost 4 years ago. That was the first time I started working with blockchain with Ricardo. We've been working on BlockBase in earnest since 2018, I think now, right? And yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm the lead developer on the project. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, if one of you wants to just give a brief introduction to what BlockBase is all about, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so the history goes like the history of the development of BlockBase goes like the following. So on the time that Ethereum was getting a lot of attention with the smart contracts, we started thinking about it would be interesting, instead of having the whole complication of having smart contracts on blockchain could also be used to store generic data on it. At the time, we heard a lot of different blockchains for storing different specific types of data, like license plates, identity numbers, emails, domain names, and so forth, but nothing that was generic. That's when the concept of BlockBase appeared. And we made some little developments on it, and then eventually we applied for a European funding program called Portugal 2020. That's in the umbrella from the Horizon 2020 program. That's an R&D funding program in Europe. And it's very hard to get funding in these types of programs. So you have to submit a document. A very large document was a 100 pages long document explaining everything that your project is going to do, the idea, the business model, and so forth. And then it's reviewed by a panel of experts, and like the probability of getting approved is like 5% for people who write good documents. So it's really low probability. And we won. And this funded the development of the project that started, so as Diogo was saying, in 2018, October 2018. So we've been developing this for one year and a half now, and yeah, so that's the start of BlockBase. And the concept of BlockBase is for storage of databases on blockchain. So it's a little strange concept because people look at blockchain like a database, and there's a lot of questions. What's the difference between a database and blockchain? But yeah, blockchain enables us to store anything we want there. In fact, usually the traditional blockchain projects store specific data, but we did it in a way that you can store any type of data on it. So what we store in fact is all the operations that structure a database, and then all the operations that deal with data in databases. So let's say you want to create a small database that just stores the names of football players, for example. With BlockBase, you would do the traditional process similar to a traditional database system. You would create the database, you would create a table similar to an Excel spreadsheet with different columns, and then you would add data and update data and delete that data on that table, right? And you do exactly the same thing on BlockBase. The difference is that you are storing all the operations on blockchain. So you've got a log that says everything that was done to create that database and all the operations of adding, updating, and deleting. So that log is stored on blockchain. And if I give you the blockchain, you can run all the operations on a traditional database, and you will end up with the current state of the database. And that's very different to a traditional database, because a traditional database doesn't have all the security that blockchain gives you. A traditional database is centralized. So let's say I'm your database administrator. I could change the data if I wanted to in my benefit, right? So if you've got a company that's got important information, you've got like a conflict of interests or a possible conflict of interests, because the guys who are protecting the database are the guys that can be the ones that attack the database. And also, even worse, if the database is hacked, those guys may be innocent, but are the first ones that will be implicated in the situation, right? So let's say, imagine that you wanted to put Bitcoin on a centralized database with a company managing it. If it got any value, it wouldn't last a week. Like, they would steal all the funds immediately. They would have all the motivation to do that. That's why Bitcoin isn't centralized. That's why it works, because it's decentralized. And we're applying the concept to generic data. So that's the main concept of BlockBase. And we're finding a lot of interest from companies that we are talking to, and also a lot of momentum from the government to start to apply these types of new laws to start using blockchain. So we've been contacted by a company that does transport of medical instruments, medical stuff, like the logistics of it. And they said that here in Portugal, the government department that rules this types of everything related to health, they are pushing blockchain, because they want the information to be stored in such a way that it cannot be changed in case there's a problem. So let's say there's a syringe that's fabricated, it's transported, it's sold, and someone dies because it had a flaw. Probably the ones that hold the databases that store information on all the transport and fabrication and so forth are the ones most interested in changing the data, because probably they were the ones that did something wrong, right? So the health department here of the government is pushing this. We've got another company from Romania that talked to us that a hospital wants to use blockchain. Also another company from asset management, so debts, people that have debt and they buy the debt, right? They want this type of technology, because if you know someone that works on that company, he's your biggest buddy, you can call him and tell him, hey, why don't you delete my debt from your database, right? So there's a lot of possibilities for this, and yeah, we're just starting to bring this to the market. We're at that phase right now, and it's looking promising. It's looking promising. We're very pumped up with this.
Awesome, and yeah, congratulations with winning that funding. So what problem do you set out to solve with BlockBase?
Yeah, so any information that is important and that may be changed in benefit for someone, like covertly changed, can benefit from being in blockchain. the problem with using a traditional blockchain like Bitcoin, Ethereum, even EOS is there's a big learning curve. Then in some cases it's very slow or it's expensive, so forth. And we wanted to reduce these problems to the most. Another problem with most big blockchains, it's all the information you put there will be public, right? It's a public blockchain. You put their information about your database, everyone can read it and can access it. So we solved that problem too. The BlockBase focuses on three main concepts. It's confidentiality of data, integrity of data, and availability of data. Confidentiality part means that everything that you want to store on BlockBase is pre-encrypted on your side. So the server side, the block producers or the miners, whatever you want to call it, we don't have miners in our case, but people understand it better that way. So they will never know what lies in the data if you want to encrypt it. If you don't want to encrypt it because you want the information to be public, you can do it that way too. The integrity is provided by blockchain, so that's the main concept of blockchain. It provides you integrity. That's why it works for crypto, for money, and so forth. And availability we achieve through something that's called sidechains. So in fact, we don't run one blockchain. We are attached to the EOS or to any EOS IO blockchain, and we run sidechains to it. So let's say you want a BlockBase service, you would have a sidechain just for you, and we would produce, not us, but the network would produce blocks for your sidechain, and those blocks would be like pegged or glued to the main EOS chain. So if it's pegged, it's a lot of more security because of that. It's not just a small sidechain with 3 or 4 block producers. The moment it's pegged to a main chain, then it's got a lot of extra security because of that. But since it's sidechains, we can have 10 sidechains, 100 sidechains, as many as we want. So we can scale it that way. Furthermore, to use our technology, you don't have to learn about smart contracts. You just have to know SQL language, which is the language to query databases. It's a very common language, and anyone that uses databases will have no problem in switching to BlockBase, because the querying language is almost the same. I don't say it's the same because it has some differences because of the whole encryption part that we built, but apart from that, it's equal to a traditional SQL language. So let's say you've got an application, an app, and it uses a database. You could change your code to, instead of using a traditional database, use BlockBase, and it wouldn't make almost any difference for you as a developer. So that's something that we focused a lot. So yeah, that's I think I went too far in the answer. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, you kind of covered my next question, which was how it works with EOS. So you kind of already answered that. But no, that makes a lot of sense. I actually went to school for IT, so I did a lot with SQL back in the day as well. So how did BlockBase get its name, and then what was sort of the original motivation to start BlockBase?
What do you mean by that question? I mean,
like how did you come up with the name BlockBase, and then like what were your original motivations when you formed the company to begin with?
Okay, BlockBase is very simple. It's blockchain plus database. So you slash the chain and you slash the data, and you've got BlockBase. Awesome. The motivation to do this, well, it's the most interesting technology out there. So being head of the innovation department at EGEP2, I have the how do you say, the opportunity to try a lot of different technologies, and fiddle a little bit with AI and blockchain and analytics and machine learning and so forth. All those are cool, but I think AI failed in the promise of changing the world. We thought AI would revolutionize everything, but it solves some problems that you cannot code. So let's say you want to recognize dogs, you cannot code that, but you can have an AI little brain that recognizes dogs, and you can do cool stuff with it, but it won't change the world completely, at least for now. But blockchain is very, very, very promising from my point of view, because it solves the integrity part of data. Before blockchain, you basically don't have proof of anything. You don't have proof of anything. So any data that lies anywhere can be changed, and you can lie about it. It's something yesterday, and tomorrow you need it to be in another shape or form, and you can't do it for that. And in some cases, it's prepared to do that, in fact, to benefit the ones who are storing the data in the first place. As an example, here in Portugal, some years ago, I think it was an ex-prime minister was going to be was going to court, right? And like a lot of information that was in computers disappeared. It disappeared. Oh, I don't know, it disappeared. It's crazy, right? So this happens everywhere. The Hillary Clinton emails too, they disappeared, got deleted. So when you store this information in blockchain, it's the distributed way that people from around the world store that information for you. They don't care about the data. They just want to benefit from the business. They've got an incentive to do that. If it's encrypted, they don't know what's there, and if it's done properly, they don't know for whom it is. So they're just storing data. They will have the backups, right? So yeah, I forgot the question. I just went ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You were just talking about the original motivations for starting BlockBase. My next question is, what are some of the next big updates that are in the works for BlockBase, or that are set to release very soon?
You want to go ahead, Diogo?
Okay, sure. So at least we were planning this month to have BlockBase up and running on the EOS mainnet, so as to have a showcase of sidechains, and so people can see it working, it is possible to start databases there. And going forward, I think the main plan we have is to make it as easy to use as possible. So right now, it takes some effort to configure a sidechain, some effort to get BlockBase actually running, but we want to make that process as simple as possible, and maybe in the future completely invisible to anyone that wants to run a BlockBase sidechain. That's the plan going forward. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And
alongside that, we plan on developing some proof of concepts for the companies that are showing interest in BlockBase.
Okay, awesome. So, where would you say BlockBase fits in with other potentially similar projects, or if you feel like it's just completely unique in the space?
You want to ask?
From what we saw, most projects that are similar in the sense that they want to store data, most of them focus on storing files, not databases, and I'd say that's the main difference in our project too. Because awesome. Blockchains to store database, I don't think we've seen any project exactly like this. So yeah, I think that's the main difference.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this before. So yeah, you guys are definitely unique in that sense. So where do you see BlockBase going in the next year, and then ideally in the next 5 years? I know it's hard to look that far into the future, but I guess in an ideal future sense.
Yeah, I answered to a similar question like that, saying that I don't know where we're going to be next week. And 5 years from now, it's really, really, really hard. So in this space, crazy things happen all the time. So when we launched our AirGrab for our token, like 3 weeks later, the ADOS thing started on EOS, and the nets became completely congested, and it's still happening right now. So also for the AirGrab, on our AirGrab, anyone can join. So any account can join, and we had to develop a whole completely from the ground system to detect like spam accounts or whale accounts, because there are a lot of accounts that belong to the same persons. Like one guy registered 3,000 accounts to the AirGrab. We detected all of that. Yeah, so it's crazy. We are always dealing with stuff that we didn't anticipate because the space is very new, and there are a lot of guys trying to manipulate the thing and trying to exploit the most out of the thing. So it's really hard. But trying to answer your question, so currently, so BlockBase is being developed by Agap2IT. It's a consulting company in Portugal, a large consulting company. So we've got about 500 developers, and we belong to a holding that's got 5,000 developers in Europe. And we can leverage that force, that commercial force, to sell BlockBase, but you have to have their support. So since BlockBase is open source technology, it's not sold as a product. It will be sold as a service. So let's say a company wants to use BlockBase, we give them the technology, but then we'll help them to configure it, to develop on it, and so forth. So we'll offer services for that, and that's the perfect fit for our group, for most of the companies in this group. So we can go to the managers, the business managers in these companies, and we can talk to them and say, hey, we've got a very interesting technology that's blockchain, that's the buzzword, and you can go to your clients or prospects and so forth, and you can sell them this, and perhaps you'll have more developers on the teams you're managing, right? So that's our approach, and it's being very receptive. So we solved half the problem. The other half, it's the hardest one, is for the companies to buy this, right? But as I said, so there's a lot of interest from the companies in starting to explore these technologies. And the way we want to do it is to be as easy as possible for them to put the foot in the water, as I think you say it that way. So we start with like free or almost free proof of concept, so they can make a will app that stores a little information there, and everything is on blockchain, on our sidechains, and they have proof of everything that they cannot change and so forth. And then perhaps they want to develop a full project on it, and that will be a normal, typical project. So it will be business as usual for us. And then perhaps they want to move from one node, one private node, to a full distributed network, a full distributed sidechain that's running on a lot of nodes. So we're trying to make the adoption as easy as possible. Where we'll be in a year, it's very, very hard to say. It's very, very hard to say, especially because we started doing this like, I don't know, perhaps a month and a half ago. I don't remember exactly. I have a very bad memory.
Yeah, my memory is a month and a half ago, yeah.
So I did a presentation to all the business managers here in Agap2 Portugal, and they were very interested in the concept from a selling point of view with to their customers. And let's see how it works out. So currently we're talking to a new company almost every week, sometimes twice a week. So it has got a good momentum at the moment. Let's see where this will lead. So answering your question, we don't know where it'll be in 1 year. It's ramping up good. I don't know if it will stay that way, if it will grow, or if it will fall. But everything looks promising from our point of view.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot, like you guys said, there's not a lot of companies that offer databases on blockchains. So it's definitely a good niche that you guys are sort of solving in the market. So where can everyone go to learn more about this project?
Is www.blockbase.network. It's our website, and there you can find all the links to the resources, development resources, to the APIs, to GitHub, where the white paper is and where the code is. We've also got a sandbox. The sandbox has like a little interface that you can query it. You can execute queries like SQL queries or block-based queries there. You can create your own database there, your tables. You can see the encrypted data that you can put there. So you can test it. Yeah, so that's a very cool thing that we developed. We've seen some people go there and create little databases, but usually they create just a database and they don't have they don't go through the pain to create the tables and to test it out. So what we are developing right now is little proof of concept apps that use the database on the background, and you can see the transactions and you can see it working. Currently, we're working on a small app that we wanted to show to you today, but we didn't finish it yet, so it's a bummer. But it's a little app to paint, where anyone can paint there, and all the pixels get recorded on a little table in a little database on blockchain, and anyone can paint there. And it's a hard problem to solve, because when you draw a little line, you've got a lot of pixels, so it stress tests the database also, right? So we had like a big resolution, and we dropped the resolution a little bit because we're not so we're still improving the system, right? But it's I forgot the question again. Well,
yeah, it was just where everyone can go to learn. And you said www.blockbase.network. And then are you guys on like Twitter and other social platforms? Where can they follow the project?
We're on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We have a group on Telegram where anyone can join and ask us questions, ask help for setting up BlockBase or anything, or just show up and talk about stuff.
Awesome. Is that at BlockBase, or
yes,
what is the okay?
I don't think it's. I'm not sure it's at. Let me send you the link. Just 1 second. Copy link. Okay. So this is the Telegram.
Awesome. I'll make sure to include that. Sweet. So yeah, those are all the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you guys would like to cover or touch on before we end this off?
You want to add anything, Diogo?
I think you covered pretty much everything. So
yeah, I think we touched the main points. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So yeah, that's it. I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing all the information about BlockBase. I'm sure my audience and even myself, I learned something. So I'm sure there's a lot for people to gain here. And if you're watching this, go and check out BlockBase at www.blockbase.network, and you can follow them, and I'll include the links, and you can check out the Telegram as well. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.